we expect and anticipate each time we move to a new phase that there will be some bumpiness. There has been every single time in phase one, step one, and phase one, step two, and phase two, step one. Um, and I wish there was some way to avoid the bumpiness. Unfortunately, I think because a lot of the guidance is pretty detailed and pretty specific, I think it requires a few days for people to absorb it and understand it. And if people felt that that this guidance was late in arriving, that's certainly on us. We are acutely aware of how important sports are to kids, and we're also acutely aware that people who have not respected the virus on a number of issues since the beginning of this pandemic have paid a really terrible price, and it's very hard to put the genie back in the bottle, which is why we've tended to be pretty careful about how we've gone about dealing with a lot of this stuff. We spend a lot of time talking to our colleagues in other states about the guidance that they're developing, who they're talking to, and how they're framing what they're doing, and have incorporated in many cases the guidance that we develop with the input that we get from our colleagues in other states. And what I've ultimately concluded is that there are different things on which every state is more strict or less strict than other states. But typically, what people focus on, and it's totally understandable, is the circumstances and the particulars in their state on their issue where their state is more aggressive than another. But I do think you're going to see countries take some very cautious positions with respect to travel, international travel generally. I mean, we're no longer allowed to fly and visit many places in Europe. So, I mean, I just think the whole issue around the pandemic has created a continually changing sense about rules and about and the application of those rules, and they affect travel at a local level. They affect travel at a global level, and I guess the way I think about this is people ought to make the decisions they need to make at the time they need to make them with the best information they have. I get the fact that there are many things associated with managing our way through COVID. At the same time, we are trying to create opportunities for people to work and pay their bills and pay their rent, create some awkward and difficult moments. And there we try to follow the best guidance and the best science that's out there. And I'll tell you something, the one thing everybody for the most part agrees on in a world where many people don't agree on a lot of things is that if two people are wearing a mask, the likelihood of a transmission drops precipitously. And if the number one objective we all have with respect to dealing with COVID is to reduce the spread of the virus, because that in the end is how you contain it and ultimately kill it. And this is one of the most effective things that we can all do to keep ourselves, our friends, our neighbors, our families, our coworkers safe. I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to expect people to step up and wear a mask when they're out in public.